Hey Andrew,
Hi,
uh,
Julia.
how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Appreciate you helping out my clients with their financing on a condotel. So
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
yeah, of course. Financing in the mountains is can be a little tricky if you don't know what you're doing. Is that right?
It can be. A lot of times people come with out-of-state lenders or bigger banks that don't know the ins and outs and the sort of nuances of resort towns and mountain properties in general.
Sure. And so when I said condotel, what do you consider a condotel?
So a condotel has actually a definition, basically, which is a condo property. They're individually owned by individual owners, but the property itself is operated as a hotel. And that
Got
can
it.
mean a variety of things.
Sure. Okay. So this condo we have some buyers working on is a Blue Sky in Breckenridge. It's a ski in, ski out. Often what we find with these types of properties, they have some extensive amenities that are kind of over the whole management of the building. And um, the property itself is, as you mentioned, the condo is owned individually. There's a front desk, and that's kind of what we refer to as a condotel, a property having a front desk in the building. Are there other things that might make a property a condotel to look
Sure.
out for?
So, yeah, like you said, a property the front desk is usually a pretty big red flag, a key sign that it is in fact going to be looked at by an underwriter as a condotel. Uh,
Okay.
One of the other major highlights is if the HOA or the property management company is involved with directly leasing or renting the units on
Ah,
a short-term basis for the individual owners. So even though all the units are owned individually, the HOA or the property manager is facilitating the short-term rentals.
oh, fantastic. That's good information. I find that not every the Blue Sky has the management company in the front desk. We find, for instance, Beaver Run and some of the different ones that everybody sort of uses that front desk, but we find also at a lot of other places it's not required that they use the front desk to use them as a property manager. Just because there is a front desk, that doesn't mean that you have to have them rent your condo out. Some people do it themselves. Some people, maybe even use someone off site as a different management company. Is that something that you guys look at? Does that affect the ability to do loans on properties, or is it really
Yes.
just go
So
ahead?
absolutely, that's a great question. As long as there's a front desk in the building and an appraiser notes it, it's going to be viewed as a condotel.
Okay.
If individual owners are using an outside company to rent out their property, even if that's advertised online somewhere, then that does not necessarily mean it's a condotel.
Okay.
Lots of individual
That
owners can all rent through a company that's in town or a nationwide company or something along those lines, even on a short-term rental basis, and doesn't not designate the property itself as a condotel.
got it. That makes sense. And you find these properties, you do loans from Telluride to Steamboat throughout,
Sure, absolutely.
Aspenville. It's kind of the same thing that you're looking for, and what you have is the condo questionnaire, correct?
We have a condo questionnaire and it asks some other questions, and some of the basics are, does the HOA or the building provide services such as nightly turnovers,
Oh,
linens, room service,
ah,
some of those types of things that you might find in a hotel. Just
got
because
it.
there's amenities like a pool or a weight room or any of those types of things doesn't really mean a lot, but it's about what
Okay.
nightly type services are being offered
Ah,
to the individual renters.
okay. So that's good to know. When you're out looking at properties and you think, oh, there's some common hot tubs or swimming pool, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a
No,
condotel. Okay,
correct.
great.
Yeah.
Great. Great. And so when you're looking at financing something like that, obviously there's a lot of them in the mountain communities. Is there something else a buyer needs to be prepared for? Is that extra monies down? Do they need a larger down payment? Is that something that happens?
So it's definitely a different type of loan. It doesn't anymore qualify for a conforming loan with Fannie
Okay.
Mae and Freddie Mac as a backing source. It now falls into a new type of financing, condotel financing. A lot
Okay,
of times we can still actually get down payments as low as 10% on these
cool.
types of purchases, especially if it's a second home, or
Ah,
even more so a primary residence. Usually with an investment property, you're going to need at least 20% down. But you can
okay,
still get the full range of ARMs to 30-year fixed mortgages and everything else in between. Other
great.
than the fact that it's put on a different classification, it's underwritten very similarly.
Oh, that's good. That's very good to know. And so then that means the timing would potentially be the same of 30, 45 day closing kind of
Correct.
standard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so uh with that, is there anything else that you can think of if I have more buyers and we're out looking, or if somebody's just starting their search at mountain properties, that they should really consider as they're looking?
Well, the most important thing, honestly, from my point of view, is work with an agent such as yourself, who's really an
Oh,
expert in those
thanks.
properties and can, yeah, honestly, and can go ahead and identify them ahead of time and say, hey, here's what's going on with this property. Make sure you've been in contact with the HOA and have an understanding of
Sure.
how the building's managed. And you work with someone local that understands all the ins and outs of the area. It's
That
very easy to get information online that isn't correct at all.
well, that's true, right? Yeah, there's a lot of information online, and that makes sense. We see that with a lot of different properties that, like you said, there's a lot of information online that isn't correct. Uh, we find that a lot of stuff that is in ski resorts that is close to the ski area classifies as a condotel. We definitely don't want to run into a situation where you're a few weeks in and maybe the lender, if it's an out-of-state lender, as you mentioned earlier, doesn't know enough about it. And then we have run into potentially needing more time, and that doesn't always work for every situation. So we want to make sure that we know all the information up front. And I think, like you said, working with somebody local. Andrew, you're with Cedar Home Loans, you're the owner of your own company. You've been doing mountain real estate loans for a long time. We don't have to age anybody, but um, been selling in the mountains for a long time as well. And it's just really important to make sure for everyone, so things go smoothly. That's what we find is smooth transactions are always the best transactions. So there aren't any surprises.
Absolutely. And I would tell you also, I would encourage you if you're working with a lender who suddenly classifies it surprisingly as a condotel, or an agent tells you suddenly it's a condotel and you're under contract on a property, reach out to somebody local because
Got
we
it.
may not look at it the same way. Sometimes the bigger banks just blanket classify everything in a resort as a condotel.
Oh,
That's not
interesting.
actually true.
Yeah, interesting. A bigger bank, sure, that's a good point. It's just everything is classified. And sometimes you have properties that you have a list. For instance, we were talking about some other things in the area that you know that it's already approved in your system to have funding for, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Because we're a local lender, we have probably at some point in time or another done a loan in almost every building,
Sure.
around. That may sound crazy, but it's actually true. And a lot of them we have on a pre-approved basis, so we can immediately
Great.
tell you this property is already clear. We've
So
completely,
the condo questionnaire for is sort of already been filled out, and
yeah.
maybe you get updated
The building's been
information.
underwritten. We've reviewed the insurance. We've reviewed the
Uh-huh.
master policy docs. We've reviewed the budget and everything else that goes along with an approval.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think this is great information. Obviously, if someone is looking at a specific property or town, if it is a condo in Steamboat or in Vale, you do a lot of business in Vale as well. They can reach out and see just beforehand if it fits into this category. But it's definitely not something people should steer away from, is it?
No, absolutely. It's completely doable. Don't be afraid just because you hear the term condotel.
Okay. Okay, great. Hey, I really appreciate the information. This is so helpful for myself, and I know a lot of people out there. Lending is a very confusing thing
It
because
can
there's so
be.
much different information.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Just ask us questions and we'll help you through it.
Perfect. That's
Thanks.
great.
Yeah.
I love it. Super. Well, hey, anyway, thanks for tuning in, and you can reach out to Andrew or myself. You'll find our contact information. And of course, if you have specific questions or just questions in general, we're here to help.
Bye bye.
Bye.